December 9th meeting of the Maplewood Economic Development Authority. City Manager Coleman, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Neblett.
Hello.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Mayor Abrams.
Here.
And Councilmember Knudsen.
Here. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the October 14th, 2019 EDA meeting minutes?
Let's do the agenda first.
Oh,
Oh, we got to approve the
I forgot to
agenda.
do the
Yeah.
agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Juniman, seconded by Neblets. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Agenda's approved. Thank you. Get out of there. Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2019 Economic Development Authority meeting minutes?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Neblets, seconded by Juniman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. There's no public hearing, no unfinished business. Let's move on to new business. On November 16th, 2019, we had a redevelopment tour. All of us and members of the Housing and Economic Development Authority joined our staff on a tour. We have a report presented by Jeff.
Thank you, President Knudsen, Commissioners. So, yeah, as you referenced, we just want to do a very quick summary of the bus tour that was held on November 16th and with the joint session with the Economic Development Authority and the Housing and Economic Development Commission. So the staff report in your package just provide a little bit more detail on that tour and kind of a summary of what was discussed. But we stopped at the cities of Richfield, St. Louis Park, and Robbinsdale and looked at some development. We also did a kind of a stop through the Southdale area of Edina on our way between the cities before we returned here at City Hall. So in your packet, we just wanted to provide the summary of the 3 sites that we looked at and some of the development background and some of the discussion that occurred that day and just take any other feedback that the Economic Development Authority may have from that tour. Other than that, there's no action that's required on this item.
Any comments, questions by EDA members? I just have one comment. I thoroughly enjoyed the tour, especially my high school stomping ground was Robbinsdale. Everything looked very different. But it was interesting talking to some friends. I was talking about our St. Louis Park tour, and they knew exactly what had happened there and what went on and what the new development. It's just really kind of fun to experience these things and what went on behind the scenes. So appreciate that. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, we have a summary of our November 25th workshop with the Housing and Economic Development Authority. Jeff Thompson's going to go ahead and give us a report on that.
Thank you again. Yeah, so as a follow-up to the bus tour then on the 25th, there was a joint work session here in the council chambers to do kind of some strategic planning and work plan development for economic development moving forward. And so in advance of that, we had asked all the EDA and HEDC members to fill out a survey, which kind of then compiled down to a list of 9 or 10 things that we are currently doing or things that maybe we're less involved in that we could be doing. And then we did some small group activities at the tables that were comprised of city staff, EDA members, and HEDC commissioners to kind of rank those on 2 axes, one impact and one effort. And so I think in your packet we did include kind of the final matrix that was compiled based on the 3 small working groups with the 3 items were in the, kind of the upper right quadrant, and then an additional item, the business retention, which kind of landed in the upper left quadrant, which are the areas that would have high impact with varying levels of effort. There was, after that, I think there was kind of consensus amongst the group that the next step would be to hold another one of those kind of joint sessions with HEDC to kind of focus on a little bit higher level, kind of asking the why question and maybe getting some of those answers from the why behind some of the efforts we're currently doing, but also having some strategic planning discussion around that question. So we have scheduled that for January 27th. From 4 to 7 p.m. here in the council chambers, and that would again be a joint workshop with the Economic Development Authority and HEDC. So again, this is just a summary of that workshop meeting or that joint session. There's no action requested from the EDA on this item.
Any comments or questions by the EDA members? I just have one on the graph. Would you mark the axes?
Oh, sure.
I just thought if others were looking at it, but it was really interesting during that session, though, is, we were going along with what we all knew and what we didn't know, and then Councilman Smith stopped us about midway through, and he said, I have a big question for you. What's the why behind this? That was, at a moment, kind of stumped us a bit, but then I think, as you mentioned, Mr. Thompson, that's kind of a key question as we go forward. It's also another filter. Why are we doing this? And it fits the 2040 plan, but then along the way, there's all kinds of choices to be made. So thank you. So our next, Mr. Thompson, you also have the next recommendation on the next page about our schedule and recommended action.
Yeah, so President and Commissioners, we do have an action item for you tonight, and that is just to set the meeting schedule for 2020. We are able to, at this time, identify 4 meetings for next year, 2 meetings in January, the first meeting on the 13th to appoint officers for 2020. That's an annual appointment according to the bylaws. And then the second meeting would be on the 27th, as referenced, for the joint session with the Housing and Economic Development Commission. And then 2 meetings later in the year, one on September 14th and one on December 14th, related to reviewing and making recommendations on any Economic Development Authority or HRA levy that may be considered. So the motion we're requesting is just to establish those 4 dates as defined dates for the EDA meetings for next year. We know that there is other business that the EDA will probably need to accomplish next year, some more business related and transferring some tax increment agreements and some redevelopment sites from the city to the EDA. But we also do expect a TIF application, a new tax increment financing application from Sherman Associates for the Frost English Phase 3. So we'd bring that redevelopment agreement to you, as well as any of the work plan that flows out of the final kind of strategic planning that happens. We can't identify those dates now, and so we will certainly have the ability to schedule meetings throughout the year, but we did want to get those 4 meetings on the calendar so that we have those on the books for 2020. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the EDA members? Mayor?
Thank you. I have a point. Having been on the council a little while and actually having been the chair of the EDA for a while, it seems to me, I mean, we're reconfiguring ourselves to try to be more proactive. And it seems to me to not have a meeting between January and September, that gives us 8 months. And I understand that we can call special meetings if we need them, but I would like to suggest having another meeting in the second quarter if we, and have it scheduled along with a council meeting so that we've got something else there that we can continue moving forward. I'm afraid that if we don't have something there, that we kind of lose the momentum, and I think we've worked very hard to get where we are right now. So I'd like to see something in that that second quarter of 2020.
Others?
April or May?
Certainly, Council, the Commission, that makes sense. We could certainly schedule that. Again, we tried to set these dates based on the same night as council meetings, just so
Right.
that there was overlap. So those dates would either be, the second meeting in April would be April 27th, or the first meeting in May would be May 11th.
Council, any preference?
Do the April.
Okay.
Yeah, closer to the
April 27th.
to the mid.
So I would propose, I'll make the motion to approve the 2020 Economic Development Authority meeting schedule with meetings on January 13th, 2020, January 27th, April 27th, September 14th, and December 14th, 2020. So we just simply add one to the list that were already there.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded, or motion by Mayor Abrams, second by Councilperson Nevlitz. It's awful, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that all, that's all we have to do tonight? We adjourned the December 9th meeting of the Economic Development Authority.
Thank you.